Welcome to J Takashi segment. This clip is from Chill Out session number 1 of the live stream show.
Welcome to J Takashi segment. This clip comes from Chill Out session number 1 live stream show.
One of my friends here, letting people into the chat now, so let's get the stream started.
What's up? Congratulations on your first StreamYard, man.
Thank you. And thank you for your help. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I was watching
even after that, I need help sometimes with some things.
No, that's fine. It's what keeps us humble and it keeps us learning. It takes wisdom.
Yep.
And yeah, I was watching the tutorial video. It was like a 6-minute video, real quick, but it was trying to help because it taught me. I didn't know how to really do it before. I usually do things behind, like wearing a mask and writing down stuff and reporting and journalism and stuff. So.
No,
that's usually what I do.
Cool. That's what I do most of the time when I try to sorry about that. Trying to get my plug in, trying to get my blue light going.
Yeah.
But that's normally what I do whenever I'm trying to freaking learn something new about new things. I actually want to get a breakdown of how it works, and then I get started on it, and then we're like pretty much all good to go for the most part. But it's like I said, it's a learning process, and everybody should be willing to learn from it. But at least in our case.
Yeah.
Right, there we go.
I remember. What is it? Are you the one that asked me about? You were asking me information when we were first talking about what my background was and what I do now. Were you the one that asked me what you guys want to talk about? And you were asking me about the cartels because you knew about friends that were over there in Mexico and stuff and stories you heard.
Yeah, I had a friend over there.
Yeah, because I talked to you about the Tijuana cartel, right? Is that the one I talked to you about? Yeah, I talked about more than one. I didn't talk about the other ones that much because the main one was the rivalry between El Chapo and the Tijuana cartel and the Sinaloa cartel. But the Sinaloa cartel, for anybody that doesn't know who's watching or hearing, the Sinaloa cartel at that time when all those cartels were at their high points, Sinaloa was actually at the bottom. They were actually the most disrespected, and they were the ones that were looked down because they were like the more broke cartel. And so they had a beef because they had no border to cross, no border cities. So in order to get them to get their drugs across, they had to pay tax to pass their drugs through their corridor. So the Tijuana cartel, the family, which is the Arellano Felix family, always had a beef with El Chapo and Sinaloans. They looked down on each other like, oh, like you're from Sinaloa, you're scumbag, you're scum. So there's always this beef. It's just like these gangs here, like Mexican gangs and black gangs, where like you're a Crib, you're a Blood, or you're on the wrong side of another street. But for them, it was states. Like if you're from this state, you're a scum. And so it's weird how it just like childish it was because a lot of these rivalries started that way. It started with envy, jealousy, and just wanting borders, wanting border cities. And Tijuana literally is across from San Diego. I mean, you have Marines nowadays getting in trouble for smuggling people, organs, like intestines, like in the black market, drugs, and etc., weapons. But it was always the main thing was weapons and drugs, and money, the cash flow of money. So, like on average, that when Sinaloa was struggling before it came to its high rising point, it had a guy named Hector Palma, which was Hector Palma, which they called him El Güero, or like whitey, or like light skin, basically, because
he sounded like a scientist when you said that.
Yeah, so Hector Palma, which is Hector Palma, he was technically the original leader or one of the leaders of the Sinaloa cartel. And El Chapo was like El Chapo's beginnings was actually he was a driver and a hitman first, and then he rose up in the ranks of the cartel. And then at points when he blew the fan, when Miguel Felix Gallardo, as you're gonna watch the show Narcos Mexico, once he goes down, that's when they splinter. They separate all the cartels to make divided different cartels. But the thing that makes this explosion surreal was they were all going to fight for routes who has the better routes to the borders, who has the most connections to the big top dogs of the government, the politicians, the bribing, the corruption of the cops and the military, the numbers of soldiers, the weapons and the drugs and the cash flow. And so that's why what you're watching now in Narcos Mexico, Jay, you're going to see why Miguel's vision was actually the safest bet, because there was the least amount of violence and envy and wrath, because it's like a business competitive market. These guys are going to want to kill each other, and the violence and bribe each other. And for those who don't get bribed, it's violent. Then you have the law enforcement who's trying to gun them down, track them down. They're putting them on FBI's most wanted list. Some of these guys, their reward, if you turn them in or have information on them, is millions of dollars. Just if you have information on them, they'll give you hundreds, thousands, or millions of dollars if it's viable. And if you turn them in, you get like 10 million or something, or 15 million. But like I said, you'd have to go into their territories to try to capture them. But by that moment, they have already paid off cops and military of themselves. And then you have them buying like fake uniforms. Some of these guys will just be gangsters. Then they'll be buying fake cop uniforms or fake military uniforms. And then they'll design their cars like Humvees, like military Humvees, all camouflaged out. So you gotta be careful. Like so back to the story though of the Sinaloa when it rose to power. So Hector Palma, along with Chapo and a guy named Juan Espargoza, who Juan was known as Blue or El Azul, and those three guys were the main people running Sinaloa. And they always had a beef or a rivalry with the Tijuana cartel. So they're like, fine, we want to buy this section of a land of corridor, which is basically from Mexicali to Sonora. So Mexicali is just Baja California, which is where I'm covered and based at. I'm between Mexicali and San Diego. So if I take a 2-hour drive, I'm there in Mexicali. Or if I take 2.5-hour drive or so, I'm going to Tijuana, passing San Diego. But basically the area that they wanted, they basically asked permission for TJ Cartel. Like Tijuana was like, well, you guys got to pay us a couple million. We'll rent it out to you. So they're like, no, well, fuck you guys. Like that's how they got beef, and it blew up. And then they started making public displays of decapitation. Guys were starting to run over their territories. They started bribing the wrong politicians, right politicians. They would like sell each other out to the governments and to the military. You got people hanging from bridges. There was a display one time. Yeah, like there's I know you're eating, but there was a display one time of they cut off the guys' heads, but then they cut open their stomachs, put them in there, hung them around the statues so everybody could see. And it was in a go around. It was like one of those drive around, the go arounds, where people could watch them as the cars are driving around the circle. And they basically saying this is what happens when you deal with for messing or helping or aiding Tijuana cartel. And so these guys were getting pissed, and then violence after violence, war, blood spill. It was just blowing out of control. Because one thing is for gangs here in America who basically just cover a street. These guys were covering states and countries. That's scarier, because when you're literally running a state, that's even scarier, because everywhere in your corner, in your corridor, you're making billions of dollars yearly. You can have enough money to bribe anybody, pay anybody. People over there are starving, so they're willing to take up the job of a driver or a hitman or a transporter for drugs. And then the politicians in Mexico, to control the media, they would buy the sawmills where they would do the lumberjacks, and where they tear down the trees to make the paper, so they're able to control what's put on the paper, on the newspaper. So it took individual newspaper like people who would run their businesses to expose corruption. So they started targeting the newspaper people. That's why journalism, if you're a journalist in Mexico, you have a high target chance or high chance of getting like murdered and assassinated, because they don't want you to expose politicians and traffickers at all. To this day, there's hundreds of journalists that still have yet to have their cases solved or to be found. Some of them haven't even found their bodies at all. And 98% of murders and rapes go unsolved or unrecognized in Mexico. 98%. So you only have a 1 or 2% chance of getting your crime solved if you even matter to them. So your case most likely will never be solved. You will never be found, and they don't have the resources to even try to look for that stuff in general. And if that's the case, you'd have to ask the U.S. Embassy, and you'd have to ask the U.S. to help with the FBI and stuff and forensics.
That's like I said, that's quite a mouthful when it comes to certain things that go down on in history. Even though we like I said, even though we have even like I said, if you look on our side of like in the Black history on the Black people side, like there's a lot of miscellaneous things that went on that people that history does talk about, but also it's to me it just like it's the never ending cycle I see for like any culture. Like I said, every culture has something not good in it at to one point. But I mean, but like how they've evolved to this day now is what we should really look at. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, if you go to Switzerland, Switzerland does not think what they thought like 100 years ago. Everybody does.
No,
they don't.
No.
Like and Scandinavia, and you get those Scandinavian that too. Scandinavia is turning into be more. I think not. Please somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I heard and what I read, it was more so. More feminist.
Totalitarian.
Yeah, totalitarian. Yeah, that's the word. Totalitarian, and plus, that's the. Well, yeah, I heard totalitarian, but it's becoming more like feminist based. Like women there are just getting more. They're getting more. The rights and everything over there. The only thing I think the men.
I think the huge problem that I have here in America too is people in the government think they have a right to do what they want with your children, and they think they can have an input of what happens to your kids here in America. Like the whole thing of transgender kids, like that's wrong. Like wait till they're at least 19, 20 years old, and then if they want to go and pursue changing themselves in whatever way, that's on them because they're already like technically their own adults now. It's like, hey, but if you're in my house and you're from the ages of 1 to 18, you're gonna do what I say. It's not allowed. It's you're gonna do what I say. Then once you leave my house, if you want to go be a chick, if you want a girl wants to be a guy, that's on you. I'm not gonna stop you. I won't like it, but I'll have to accept it. But I'll tell you I won't like it, but I'll have to accept it because at the end of the day, you're gonna do what you want to do. And even though I believe in God and stuff, I know God made you the way you were. So if you're born a boy, you're to be a man. If you're born a girl, you're to be a woman. There's nothing wrong with you. And I think that's the problem. I don't know. A lot of them try to say, oh, it's because that's how they identify from birth. Bitch, how the fuck are you going to tell me about my kid? If they don't even know, if they don't even know themselves, us when we're kids, we don't know what the fuck we want at 17, 18 years old. We might think we do, but we don't really know yet. We might have just graduated high school, but we still have life to figure out. And the problem is, I think that's one of the big issues like I wanted to talk about because it's so wrong and it's almost like perverted to think that they say no, like if your kid from elementary or middle school wants to chop his balls off and be on hormone blockers, you should let him do it because he's a kid. No, fuck off. Like no, like leave my kids alone. They're my kids. Like back away. That's what I would tell them. Like go shove it. Go jump off a cliff if you have a problem with that. But those are my kids. You don't. I get to teach my kids about sexual shit when they're old enough to come to me. Once you're in high school and they teach you sex ed and stuff, that's cool. 16, 17 years old, they're teaching you sex ed. That's fine. But for you to shove it in their face from a young elementary age is almost perverted and pedophilic almost. But that's just me. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm not trying to attack anybody. But that's the problem that I have. Parents should have the right to talk about this stuff before a school tries to jam it in their brain. You know? Because that was never part of our curriculum. Jay, when you went to school, that was never a part where a transgender would come to your thing and show you about this or that and put on a dress, put on makeup.
No,
and then like
I never had that experience.
I never had that, and nor should our kids. Nor should our kids.
None of our kids should be subjected to any of this subjective black bullshit.
It's like
personally.
ambush
Like,
journalism. It's kind of like if it was ambush journalism.
Yeah, like I said, this agenda being pushed is just retarded to me. I'm not a fan of it. And let's just be real. Because like I said, I said the raw cut truth. It shouldn't be there to begin with. Two kids don't know what they are even when they're 14. I don't really give a damn because you do not know until you have grown up, become an adult. You actually have an idea. You can think on your own. When we give you the necessary tools and the morale that we literally placed in your brain since you were a baby, in order to make these decisions when you get older.
Yeah.
That's how we've always gone about it. Now, yes, in high school, I knew what lesbians were for the first time. Knew what that was. When I got out of college, I never ran into any like gay dudes. And like I said, I experienced that till I got to high school. I mean not high school. When I got out of high school into college, I met like two. Became friends with one of them. The other dude, just talked. Told me, I
Yeah.
asked him why he was what he was. Yeah, he was still a genius how he could do things. Like I said, he was one of the ones that had different in the voice. The one that's my friend, he acts like a straight guy.
Yeah.
Doesn't sway his hips, doesn't he could like I'll be honest. He could be a Bradley Cooper,
Yeah.
talk like him, and you would never know that he was gay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, some of these gay people,
Yeah.
they have very masculine, straight tendencies, but yet they're gay. But they, like, I knew about gay people since I was in middle school, but to see it full on display, like, was it high school? That's when I saw it. And then once I got, because I live close to the Palm Springs area. So Palm Springs is one of the top gay capitals. I think it's in the top 2, Palm Springs area. So it's a top 2 capital of gay population. So there's a strong LGBT presence, but there's not really a LGBT community of political activism as much. So there's LGBTQ a lot here in Palm Springs. I live in a town of called Indio, so it's right next to Coachella Fest. Have you ever heard of that concert, Coachella Fest, in the West Coast?
Yeah, I heard of Coachella Fest. Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, so I live literally like within like less than 10 minutes from that concert venue. But Palm Springs, yeah, like it's like a very high LGBT, and they're pro for that, which is cool with me. Gay clients are some of the best clients for when it comes to landscape and construction and stuff, because they're great tippers, and they always are wanting to call you back. They're friendly. But when it comes to like the children and stuff, I just don't think that like that's not your right. Like you should just stick to maths, history, reading, writing, doing the basics and some of the more advanced stuff. But when it comes to sexual preference and orientation, that should not be something that should be talked about, because you're a minor of the state. That has nothing to do with history. Of course, gays have had their own history, but that should be something that should be taught and chosen in college or in high school when you have those LGBT clubs, where it's like, if you want to join that club after school program, that's cool. Or wait till you're in college and choose that. But for you to shove it down throat, and it's like ambushing and like trying to pressure people, because if you don't, for whatever reason, support something or say I'm not for this, they automatically think you're against it. It's not that we're against gay people. It's just that you got to have a right, and you set your boundaries as a parent. And I'm not a parent, but I'm speaking up for those parents, because a lot of these parents have the same issue with that. A lot of parents do. And they're pulling their kids out of school, or they're putting them in more private conservative schools, or if they can, they're homeschooling them. Yeah. And a lot of kids now they're homeschooled. I was to a point where even when I was in high school, where I wanted to try homeschool, but I would have been more of they would have probably attacked me or shamed me for calling me an incel or something. Even though I knew a lot of people, I was cool with a lot of people, but I wanted to try homeschool to see what the experience was like. But then I wondered, maybe homeschool. I wanted to try. Well, will homeschool make me lazy? That's the only thing I was wondering. Like, will it make me more sloppier in my work? Will it make me not want to try as hard? So that's why I didn't do the homeschooling at the end.
To touch up on homeschool, yeah, I was homeschooled every summer by my grandmother, and I wasn't mad about that idea. I wasn't mad about that. It made me smarter, and there were some things I learned in there which was better learned in the class.
Yeah, because you're more focused and it's directly with you.
Yeah, because like I said, sometimes the school education sucks. I'll be honest. Sometimes
It's
I'm not
true.
trying to shit on
True.
all the. I'm not trying to shit on the teachers that I liked. I'm talking
Well,
about
no,
like the
it's just
ones
because
who
there's
actually
some teachers have sucky
that will
teaching
teach you.
methods.
Yeah, some people have
Yeah.
such. Yeah, they have such teacher methods, and some have good teaching methods that can intrigue students.
Yeah.
I've always said
Yeah.
that before. If you have a boring voice, to put my ass to sleep. I don't give a
That's true.
damn. And don't says, well, you can't do. I don't give a damn. Be enthusiastic. If Jordan
It's just
Peterson was my freaking
if
teacher, hear me. If Jordan
yeah.
Peterson was my freaking teacher, I'd be up. I'd be taking notes like nobody's business.
Yeah,
And I
Jordan
and I
Peterson's
got
an
and I
educational
love
goat.
Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
And like I said, I tell my friend, like I said, I get to start listening to Jordan Peterson's speech, and I felt very empowered just now.
I feel
And I'm
like
like, yo,
I feel like when
yeah, like I
Jordan
said, you can
Peterson
get empowerment
talks,
from that man. You can get
yeah,
empowerment from him a lot.
yeah, I feel like when Jordan Peterson talks, it's like you're in that journey with him talking. I feel like that's when he talks. It's like you're going through the experience and the journey, even though you were never there. But you just
Yeah,
respect because it's so knowledgeable and he's so articulate. He's very educational, and he's not trying to bash anybody. He's not attacking anybody. But yet, it's funny whenever
he's
women try
not.
to conversate with him or debate him, they shame and attack the man just because he's a knowledgeable.
And try to shame attack him, but here's the thing: they try to use it. They try to use his own work against him, and he cuts them down from the
Yeah,
edges, from the root.
and this is the thing.
I
He's not
I
even
love
being
him for that
malicious
because
about
he
it.
doesn't. Yeah, see, the thing is, I love it when he does that, and here's the reason why we love him for that. This man is known for being honest. He says, because they have asked him, "How you want to be remembered?" Being honest. No one's gonna take what I wrote and twist it in some way. What's written there is what's written there. You make assumptions based on what's there, but that's not written there. Or what you ask is not written in there, or what you surmise is not in there. Because you're not, like I said, because I don't. He said I don't get why you guys do this. And he actually calls them out on it. He doesn't stand there like chicken legs and freeze up and says, well, blah blah blah, while they talk over him. He don't let any of them ladies talk over his ass. That's one of the many things I respect about Jordan Peterson. He is not a pushover at all. He's like him and Ben Shapiro are like probably the last bastions of like direct of
Yeah,
directness. And what I mean is like, not letting feminists do what they get away with what they're saying or just say nonsensical stuff without having any claims for the backup. But they also have data, they have reasoning, they break it down to the biological core facts of what is. And I'm like even I understand it. Like I understand exactly what they're saying. I really do get it
yeah. See,
because Jordan
yeah,
Peterson is somebody you respect. I'll be honest. If we're going to talk about a book you want to read one of his books. It actually
I
is going
do.
to be useful
Yeah,
to you in the future.
yeah. Have you
I'm
bought
going
some
to
of
pick
his
his book up
books?
one day. Hmm.
Yeah. Uh, I'm ordering some certain books, and I think I'll try to send you the link on the text. Some of the books that I read and some of the ones that maybe you might like. They're actually pretty affordable.
Oh, okay.
It's some stuff that I read and stuff that's my job field, but it's kind of like the type of book I'm making. It's kind of more of like an intro to some of the characters I've talked about, and it's kind of like a
Hmm.
rogue gallery, kind of like how like Batman has its like rogue gallery of villains and stuff and his characters.
Yeah, like Spider-Man
It's
does. Yeah.
yeah, so it's kind of like my book. It's kind of like that. Like each cartel, their stories and the individuals and certain politicians that have been incarcerated or military men that have been incarcerated and connections all around. And this is all somewhat public knowledge, but some of it's going to be more in depth. I'm not going to lie. A lot of people that have ever published these books, we become like targets of it. But like I said, my role, I think, what I feel fulfilled is when I expose the corruption and I try to help the victims that have like lost their lives or are still suffering to this day,
Hmm.
or the ones that never got justice. So that's my part. I understand what comes with it, that it might number my days on this planet, but on this earth, but I feel like a job fulfilled and then like a job worth meant something to help people and expose some of the bad stuff and people going through stuff right now in Mexico, which is a great country, a country that I love. And it's a story to be shared and told. And there are many countries where people have tried to tell their stories and they get silenced one way or another. And whether it's assassinating
Hmm.
their character, destroying their careers, putting them in prison, murdering them, assassinated, stuff like that, held hostage, like that's why I always say journalism in Mexico, you'll get killed for journalism in Mexico. Not here in America. Here in America, you can roam free and do whatever you want. But in Mexico, if you dare speak someone's name that is either a politician or a corrupt criminal, your days will be numbered a lot of times. And some of these people, a lot of them, their crimes haven't gone solved at all. Like some will never get solved. And it is what it is. But I mean, I'm not ashamed of it. I'm proud of it. And my father had warned me about stuff like this. My father's in a different side of Mexico that I can't even go to because it's so dangerous that, it's one of the most dangerous places in Mexico. That's why I haven't seen my father in a couple of years either.
You still in contact with him?
I try to from time to time, but like I said, the last time I talked to him, he was stuff was happening, and something happened to his phone. I was trying to get in contact with people around the area where he was living in, but nothing. They said nothing. They said they hadn't seen him, and I hope he's okay. But
yeah, man. Like I said, I wish him the best. Hopefully he's safe.
Yeah, because I tell you, did we ever talk about that guy who was known like as the Soup Man in Mexico? Have you ever heard of a guy named the Soup Man?
Yeah. You told me when you were in a Primal Stream when you broke it all down to me.
Yeah.
Both of us when you told that.
So to break it down real quick on the Soup Man, I know I might have said some stuff, but I didn't say the whole thing. I think, but the Soup Man, or as they call him in Mexico, the Pozolero, he was hired by various cartels, but one of which I think was either between the Tijuana and the Juarez cartel, like those Zetas and all that, have hired him. It was to basically dissolve bodies using certain experiments, and one of which, if you remember watching Breaking Bad, Breaking Bad had probably the most scientific way of doing it, which is buying kind of like these plastic barrels, and you wrap them with a certain sheet and a tarp, and then you put the hydrofluoric acid, and you'd obviously take off the clothes, you take off the jewelry, you take off any fillers that the person had in their teeth, any piercings, and or you can leave them in there, but for the most part you just leave the flesh and the bone in there. And supposedly this man was caught, the Soup Man. He would use like a huge cauldron, and they said that they estimated that he had like in the dozens of thousands of people that he has literally turned into soup. So that's why you couldn't really process any crimes. So, and they would pay him a good amount, good fee, and they get away with the murders. And the way they would tell the reason they found out it was that high was because he had kept the shoes and kept some clothes, and they numbered it up to a couple dozen, like almost a dozen thousand or so. And yeah, now that Soup guy is in prison now in the U.S. I think he's in the U.S. prison right now, if I'm not mistaken. If not, he's in a Mexican prison. I want to try to get a setup of interview with him as well, in person to person.
I mean, that'd be quite the interesting take. So I guess we touched up a little bit on your little story that you wanted to tell me. I guess we can venture to anime now if you want. So what did you like? So we can bring up Yu Yu Hakusho, guys. So what did you like about Yu Yu Hakusho? Particularly, what was one of the things that drew you into that series?
So for me, Yu Yu Hakusho was one at a time when I was young, but I was still a teenager-ish, coming into teenage years. But I liked it because of the story. I liked it because of just I guess the characters in the school life, and then I guess they had like a little brotherhood between the group of guys, and they each had their own ability. They each had their own characteristics, but what it came down to was that tournament, and each group of good guys, for every bad guy in their bad group, they had their counterpart, and I kind of liked that a lot too. And their abilities were pretty cool. But yeah, I wish it didn't stop. I wish they had a couple more seasons after that, but I felt like they didn't give it its justice that it deserved, and it doesn't get its appreciation or validation that it should get in the anime community. I feel like a lot of anime communities leave that show out.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
Well, I'll say this for now. First of all, they're not a 91 kid like I am. And also, I grew up in a time where the dub for that series was legendary. I love Justin Cook, who voices Yusuke. I love Christopher Sabat that has Kuwabara's voice, who's also the voice of Machida. And also
Oh
we
yeah,
have
yeah,
Hiei. Hiei's voice actor was amazing. Kurama's
yeah,
voice actor was amazing. Like, dude, like even the girls sound good. Keiko, Yukina, Shizuru, Botan. I'll be honest, Botan is actually the best girl in that entire series. Like, she is somebody you can wife up. If you marry her, you are gonna have a good life. You are gonna have a good life.
yeah. I'm not gonna lie. To me, Yu Yu Hakusho is what Naruto is now. Like if they would have gave Yu Yu Hakusho its justice, I think it's what Naruto is now or better. It could have been better than Naruto and like these other animes like
To
the
me,
other
to me, it's already better than those ones because it's a classic. I think
yeah.
Naruto hits probably on an emotional feel or hits that ninja aspect or whatever very well in some spots, pre time skip wise, but time skip wise is different. To me, it's the Gar show time skip, and I love Gar. Gar is like the best character in the whole time skip. He grew up and
Yeah.
became a leader, a mature man, and he got character
Yeah.
development with his dad coming back to life and knowing about his mom. So I
Yeah.
respect Gar. Gar actually became the leader of like I like Gar's story so much, dude. This dude went from a freaking psychopathic murderer from being controlled from his father to the influence of an evil spirit to
Yeah.
then fighting Naruto, then learning to actually caring about people, saying
Yeah.
sorry to his brother and sister, to being an ally, and then after that he became the leader of his village and just became I'm Kazakage now, guys. And now he has girls looking at him once he's freaking Kazakage. I was like, yo, Gar put in work. And see that what that told me we can all do if we do hard work. There'll be a good outcome for us. We're
Yeah.
men. And I realize
There's a
predominantly men, we can do it.
there's another anime that they told me to watch which is it's called One Punch Man. One Punch Man. I don't know if you watched it. One Punch Man. They told me to watch that one, but I haven't gotten into it yet. I haven't seen it. The one that I did watch was One Piece. I used to watch One Piece from time to
One
time
Piece,
too.
yeah.
Do you think it's
I'm
a
still with it. Yeah, I'm still with the series. It's like okay right now. It's not like the greatest, but still entertaining to some degree. But like I said, I'm there for the ride to finish it. Like I said, with all running long running series have the same damn problem.
it tends to
When
get stale after a while?
it does.
Yeah, that's what
I
they
don't
say
know why
about The
people don't
Walking
understand
Dead.
that.
Yeah, that's what
I
they
mean,
say about The Walking Dead.
I dropped that shit third season. That shit was trash.
The Walking
It
Dead,
was sexist. Yeah, it was sexist and bullshit and plot
and
holes.
how
It
was it
was bad.
sexism? How was it sexist? That's a first. I never heard that before. I never heard that before. I never heard Walking Dead is sexist. I never heard that.
It is towards women and men.
So towards who?
Towards women and men.
How? What way? There's a
So,
what?
remember, it's based off a comic book. The comic book is better than the fucking show.
Oh yeah, like the graphic novel is way more better. A lot of times it can be for a show because remember, like the TV distribution, like the TV contracts and the channels, they have a certain limit to R ratings and PG-13 stuff. They limited. They're limited. Comic strips, you can if you make it black and white and instead of adding the blood and the gore, uh, you can go all out, you know. But yeah, but no, like to be honest, the show got better after the third season. The third season was pretty good. It was all right. I I liked the second season a bit more than the third season, but to
Mm-hmm.
me, I thought
Wait,
to me
wait, for what season? Tell me which one again.
for Walking Dead.
For Walking Dead. Okay, that's right. Because I'm not sorry. They talk about different anime when you said that, but yeah, I think season two probably was it. But when I got to three, the governor shit, I was like, screw this, I'm out.
No,
Like
it got better.
the characters do shit that don't make sense.
No, it got better. Like especially for the second half of the fourth season, it got better and it builds up. And then the fifth, sixth season, the sixth season it was like all right, but the half of the fourth was good. and then the 5th was really good, and then the 7th and 8th season it's pretty good too. It's really good. It's more of a war between different colonies and different shit like that. And the 9th season was fucking intense. But that was my main show. When I'm not watching animated stuff or some or cartoons and stuff from now time,
Mm-hmm.
I like to watch like Sons of Anarchy, the Mayans, the
Okay.
biker.
Sons of Anarchy
I like
was really
watch.
good. Yeah.
Sons of Anarchy, Mayans is actually really good. I was kind of nervous because okay, they always tend to do this where one show does really good and they want to copy and make spin-offs, and spin-offs don't usually do good. But Mayans surprised me because it actually
Yeah,
got better and
they
better.
don't normally do well. Yeah.
But Mayans surprised me because they got way better as each episode got. The show kept getting better and better. And not a lot of shows have that tendency. Breaking Bad is one of my favorite shows.
Well, Breaking
Uh,
Bad can do no wrong because
yeah,
yo, man, I ain't
it
gonna lie,
it shows
man.
a guy going from beta male to alpha male. It shows a guy going from beta male to alpha male
Yeah,
easily.
freaking Walter White. Just Walter White is like the epitome of like, yo, I don't mess
You're
with dudes
suburban.
who can cook meth. Yeah,
Yeah, and
that's
plus it's
crazy,
like this
man.
this
Yo,
dude was making
yo, he's
crystals
like,
that
yo,
are bombs.
he's crystal like meth that's like in crystals, but you can't even trace them, and it's not even toxic and it rots his flesh or anything. But
Yeah.
it is like, yo, he's like, yo, I can imagine people sitting in an RV like, yo, you want to cook? I was like, yo,
Bro.
yo, you want to cook this? Oh my god! And the crazy thing is that this man had cancer too.
Yeah, that guy had cancer.
The very beginning, season 1, you literally know, like, yeah, he said, yeah,
Yeah.
you have the same symptoms my freaking aunt has. Jesse said, and I'm like, yo, I remember the episode so much. I'm like,
Yo,
yo, you have the same
I
shit
love
she has.
Jesse. I love Jesse too. Come on,
Yeah.
bitch. That was only his line. Bring it, bitch. That's all. Like that's why I loved him, and it was a good way of a suburban white guy who was always the boring plain Jane guy who was a chemist, who was a chemistry teacher, and he ends up becoming a kingpin. But remember, women love the bad boy. They love the Chad and Tyrones, but as long as he looks good and has the power, money, and status, they don't mind the bullshit. But it's just it was a great show.
Mm.
I loved it. I know. Have you been watching Breaking Better Call Saul? That's a good show
No,
too.
I haven't watched that one.
Yeah, it's a really good show too. It's a prequel to the Breaking Bad. It's before he meets with him, and
Oh, okay.
it's showing a lot of characters from Breaking Bad before they were there and leading up to Breaking Bad, and it's like first or second season. That's like it's leading up to like the second season of Breaking Bad. So Better Call Saul is like a 5 or 6 season show, but it's a good show. And yeah, and then when I'm not watching that, I liked watching Shameless. Shameless was a really good show to watch too for me. I loved
Oh,
it.
shit.
Yeah, I love Shameless. I don't know if you watched that show before.
Shane?
Shameless.
Shameless. Yeah. I haven't started. I know about it. I haven't started. I watched Penny Dreadful before. I think one of the Okay, you know it's a show I gotta finish watching? Vikings. Vikings is good. I love Vikings.
Oh yeah, I heard of that show. The show that I haven't
I
watched,
have it
and
on
I'm never
Hulu right
gonna.
here. Yeah, man, you got that
Yeah,
one. You gotta watch. Those are
yeah, I
really
heard of
good.
that. Yeah, and the one show I'm never gonna watch is Game of Thrones for some reason. I'm not gonna watch that show because I just don't. I don't want to watch white people in the Middle Ages. I just don't want to watch white
Mm,
people in the Middle Ages. I don't want to.
mm.
It's like my
Wow.
girl said the same thing. So he's like, why am I gonna watch people back in the days when it's boring as hell? Like I was like, well, we should give it a try. I was like, I love like the Greek Roman times. I like those kind of shows, but I don't want to watch knights and shit and the Dragon Queen. Like I don't want to watch that. It's just not for me. I tried watching it mainly for the sex scenes, probably, but that's about it. That's about it. And
Right.
I heard the Dragon Queen has a scene with the Aquaman. That's pretty intense.
Wait, with the who?
Aquaman, Jason Momoa, the
Oh, Jason
Dragon
Momoa.
Queen.
Yeah,
She's like
she's getting
basic.
it from the back.
Dang, I heard that. I heard she was great at receiving. That's what they were saying. The fans. But nah, yeah. But those are the kind of shows I like to watch. I liked watching The Shield. The Shield was a good show too. I don't know if you ever watched it. The
Shield?
Shield and yeah, The Shield and Nip Tuck. Crazy shows.
Shield. I know Nip Tuck. I
Yeah.
know what Nip Tuck was, but Shield.
That's a good show. So basically, the Shield, it's the same people who made Sons of Anarchy and like Mayans. Well, the Shield was the first original show in FX, which took it up to that extreme of level of it can be type of scenes and violence sometimes, and like like that's what started the mold for these iconic shows on FX. The Shield was like a team of like 4 cops who was running in LA. At the time, these cops were corrupt and they were doing their shit, but they were also vigilantes as well. Like they try to do good in their communities, but they did shit that was wrong as well, and the karma came back to bite them. And yeah, like it was a really good show. I think it ran for like 6 seasons or 7 seasons or something like that. Yeah, but it's a good show. I loved it. Like one of the greatest shows I think I've seen. I recommend you watch it when you have spare time. But yeah, it's a great show too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are like basically like the main shows I watched. Besides The Office, I love The Office. The Office is a great show for like a laugh and stuff. And yeah, I like watching Key and Peele. Key and Peele as well. Key and Peele is funny.
Okay. Well,
I love watching comedy. Yeah, Key and Peele. Key and Peele is funny as hell.
Oh, Key and Peele. Key and Peele.
Yeah, Key and Peele. I like watching comedy. I like watching comedy as well, like Martin Lawrence, Eddie Murphy, Dave Chappelle.
Oh, okay.
Like those.
Dave Chappelle. Okay,
Yeah.
I guess. Okay, I guess we're getting to a comedy freaking talk. I think in anime I like a lot of rom-coms are said to be funny, but they fail in terms of romance sometimes. I mean, like they really fail because
what way?
For me, and the way they fail.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is like I said, I'm an anime connoisseur. I can tell you why. The nonsensical idea that these two might get together, there's never any conclusion to it. There's never really any build up to it. If there is, then it's bitter, not even bittersweet. It's not well written. Things aren't earned, and ends up being a joke. Hence why if it's just a romantic comedy, just let it be comedy and then move on a problem. Because the romance aspect is weaker than the actual comedy itself. The only one these are the romances rom-coms I admit I recommend people because they actually had a conclusive ending and the dude actually got his chick.